Not a matter of if, but when crisis will rock your world. I'm Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, licensed attorney, and host of The Crisis Files. In each case file, we talk with thought leaders navigating epic change. Peter Bailey is author of The Epic of You and president of the Prouty Project, a leadership development firm that challenges organizations to stretch beyond their limits. I couldn't think of a better person to cover artificial intelligence in the modern workplace. Peter is here for the case file I call Leadership AI. So here's a quote from Microsoft's Work Trend Index 2026. AI is expanding what we can do and putting a premium on judgment, clarity of intent, and the design of work itself. And that seems pretty true, Peter, but some fear that AI is going to wipe out humans.
Yeah, it's I think the topic of every journal, every business issue today is what's it going to do to the marketplace? What's it going to do to a company's investments? And are we ready for it? And I think that's a McKinsey recent report, 92% in the next 3 years says that companies will invest in their AI. And it also said 1% is ready to do so.
Wow, that's a huge stat.
Yeah.
So people, organizations, leaders are coming to you at the Prouty Project. They're asking, okay, how do we get ready? Because it's not even what's coming, it's we're in the future.
Right. Right. Well, and, we're among all of you trying to figure out what's the best way to do this. And there are certainly the chat bots, and those are the easy ways. And I kind of look at it as two buckets. There are the people, how do we make our work easier? And then how do we make our work smarter? And the easier part is how do you summarize documents or summarize this meeting? And you've all seen that on Teams and Zoom where you get these immediate notes printed out afterwards. It's like, oh, saved my life. This is great. But that's the other side of it is the curiosity part of how do I actually use AI to be smarter? And that's the part I'm more interested in, too. It's almost like when the teacher in school said, don't forget to show your work, and if you just want the bullet points, that's available. But I think where we really could explore is how are we using, as companies, AI to help us be smarter? And I'll give you an example. I was looking for a client that I'm working with that's an AI group, senior team, some new members, and they're having some trouble with prioritization. Now, normally we do strategic planning and leadership development. We don't necessarily work on building prioritization
But
models.
It's so important, right?
Well, it is. And we get there, but this is sort of a new thing. So I thought, okay, Chat GPT, or we use Claude, and find that that's a deeper, easier tool in some ways. And I posed the question and said, so if I were to be building a workshop, a half-day workshop for IT leaders who are looking to prioritization, what might I consider? So again, it goes back to how good can we make prompts give us better answers? And what it revealed was a model called the Rice model, which, was one I hadn't been familiar with. And it allowed me to go down yet another rabbit hole to say, what am I going to need to do to teach this? So this is where I think it can enhance us. I like to think of it not as artificial intelligence, but assistant intelligence.
Right. And when you hear about these different models, whether it's from Microsoft or Google, whatever it is, they are called agents. And I heard someone who speaks on this topic, and he says, think of the agent as your intern. And your intern gets smarter every time you sort of teach your intern how to help you. And that's about the programming of what you want this agent to do for you. So I have seen in just even a few months' time, the headlines go from half your workforce or a third of your workforce will be wiped out to just like 3 months later. No, that's not going to be the case. Humans are always going to still be needed. It's just, as you say, hopefully the humans work smarter.
Right.
Another piece and I talk with my different clients as well as others who are out there doing this, and many leaders have decided not to put the artificial intelligent, whatever, the agents, the processes any company is going to do under just one body. They're not just putting it under the chief technology officer or the chief information services officer. And that is smart. And because the reasons they're telling me is we need to spread this out across all the functions. We need to have people who are not worried about using it. They're trying it in their day-to-day. And they're also not just counting on the technology team to be the teachers of it.
Right. And I think that intern model is a good example. If you only have one intern who only works in one department, they're not going to understand the company.
Right.
And so how do you move that intern around and have people play with it?
And have multiple, right, your own personalized, use the platform to create your own personalized assistant, intern, agent.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the ways, because I will say I'm never an early adopter of anything technological, it's my own maybe inner fear of I'm going to mess this up. But it's here. I mean, we all need to get on board. And like you said in your earlier stat, only 1% of current day companies are ready. But FutureCast, 92% will need to be or have to be.
Right. And we'll plan on investing.
And we'll plan on investing in it.
This is where, to your point, we need to raise the conversation to the leadership level and say, how do we want to use this? And how will it serve us? And how will it make us smarter? So it's a great conversation. It's a good question to answer. And I think we need to actually have those conversations before we get into them.
I want to share another quote, and, I'm not over-indexing on Microsoft, but I happened to see a post from a Microsoft executive named Kathleen Hogan that said the more they use it, the more resourceful they will become, meaning these employees, discovering new capabilities that translate into real business value. So it is every kind of thing, whether it's a note gathering tool or a summation tool after a meeting, or even just as someone recommended to me as I'm working on my second book, put all of the notes you've taken, even your client notes, into the tool and ask it to spit out an outline. Now, that outline is not in final form by any means, but think of all the time, the human minutes it would take me to pore over all those notes versus putting them in, letting that agent be that assistant for me.
Right. And I think that's where we have to not, again, go back to your intern model, give them the keys to the tractor and run the company, because if they're not taught how to use it well, they could run over the wrong part of the lawn, know? So I think this comes back to us as educators. How are we informing these tools to use our content to the best, ability? So if you're organizing your book chapters, you got to go back in there and say, does this feel like me, or am I losing my sense of voice and my tone? I think that's one of the fear factors that people are having is, where am I losing my humanness? And as long as we're staying pretty close to hand on the tiller, we're not letting the sailboat GPS take us off into the distance, because there could be rocks, there could be shoals, there could be things that have changed. We need to stay close by. And so I think that just behooves us to make sure that we are keeping an eye on what's happening here and filling in the data we want, but asking better questions. How will this help me organize my book? What are the trends people are looking for? Is it business book with memoir? Is it business book with how-to steps? What are those things that are trending? Do they want
exercises? Yeah, I love that.
Correct.
So, Peter, you and your teams, you work with leaders all over the country, and you're helping them help their employees regroup and realign. So even if we took the AI factor out of this, what are some best practices when you want to get your team or teams to try something new, do something new, and indeed even change?
Right. Well, we always talk back at the Prouty Project, we'd like to start with a clean sheet of paper. So I would say before you go to Claude or any of the tools and pose the question, have the question yourself. Put it on the wall. Ask yourselves, what do we want to do? And then ask it for hints. Ask it for, what did we miss? What other perspectives might we consider? And also, a good way, I saw David Brooks did a great article in Atlantic on this recently, and he said, pose the question of who are the people writing on this now that I need to read or to be more aware of, so that we're not asking it to be the expert, we're asking it to help us with what are the other experts.
So even though if we took AI out of it, let's pretend we're not talking about AI or an agent. What are some really great ways to get a group of people, a team, to change, to try something new? What are some best practices just in general?
Well, we love to use the blue ocean model that came out of INSEAD a number of years ago. But if you use it as a tool, it really helps you think, what's the red ocean business models happening today that's sort of limited because people are cutting through the water like sharks looking for the consumer. And the blue ocean really is the idea of what's out there that hasn't been considered. So it's got 4 simple boxes. What are ways that I could decrease what's happening that I might look towards a differentiator? How could I increase? How could I create? Or how could I eliminate? So decrease, increase, eliminate, or create brand
And all
new.
of these things, regardless of what we're talking about,
Yeah.
we can continually become more efficient.
Look for a new way.
And
it
new
gets
ways,
us-
better ways.
Right. And it gets us out of our static thinking, our status quo thinking, and into what are the new blue ocean ways of thinking, which AI actually could help later on, but do it ourselves first as humans. We want to make sure that we're keeping curiosity alive. Again, David Brooks in this article said, AI doesn't have hunger. Let's make sure we're tapping into hunger, tapping into desire.
That humans do have.
Which humans do have. We're really good at that. I love the quote Pascal had long ago. He said, heart may have its reasons, of which reason may know nothing, but reason all too often has no heart. So how can we make sure that we're including heart in everything we're doing, particularly during times of economic challenge, environmental degradation, current war situations? How do we go back to the people? And I think that's where we will never be wrong if we tap into the people first and then bring in the tools as we need them.
So as we think about this from the neuroscience perspective, and I by no means am a scientist, but the brain does not like change. Yet humans for time immemorial have been changing. And when an improvement is offered to them, it might seem scary, it might seem insurmountable, but ultimately, if we can wrap our brain around, let's try it, let's get maybe to the other side. What does that mean for us? And usually when we can be in that space where we're open to change. So one of the best things that leaders, and I'm sure you're talking about this all the time, can do is just to take the fear factor out of things for their teams, for their other people, their peers even.
Yeah. Dr. Gisela Wendling in California is doing some amazing research right now, and she's looking at change models of the old endings, neutral zones, new beginnings, which was fabulous with William Bridges, but now calling it the transformational liminal pathway. And if you think about that, if we're looking towards transformation, how do we actually go through stages of change without the fear factor? Even looking at that center part of the crucible, that period of where we're going to go through change. She compares it also to the caterpillar becoming the butterfly.
Which is such a visual and symbolic
Wonderful.
reference.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. And that's really what we need.
We are caterpillars munching on the leaves. And what we need to do is to go into this chrysalis of the sort of a step back, think about it, really go to our heart of hearts and say, what's happening here? What's important? What do I want? And there's an interesting term, imago. And imago is that stage of being in the cocoon where that caterpillar actually becomes liquid before it creates that exoskeleton to build a beautiful wing structure to fly. So if you think about that as human beings, where can we take a deep breath, go into a cocoon state, whether it's your leadership team or on a retreat, which we love to run at Prouty, and put ourselves in a place of more creative curiosity, and then take deep breaths as we step into the process of change.
And all of what you talk about, Peter, is very human.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, even before we talk about anything that is artificial intelligence, we have to have our own human experience of what we're about to do, what we're about to try. And that is very beautiful. And how you just described that is very beautiful. I love the visual, the symbol of that caterpillar to butterfly. And we are that every day.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about how we started in the womb, even just as a baby coming out of the womb, to where we are, each of us now, and everyone who's watching or listening to this now, so many changes had to happen for you to get to current day you.
Right.
And you did it. And sometimes you had help of technology. Sometimes you had the help of another human. Sometimes it was just your own willpower. You got there.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the whole curious, heroic journey, if I will, of us and our lives is grab the tools that you need, use them well, but take care of the people in the process.
Absolutely. And it is really human. And that's one of my missions with the Crisis Files, is to make sure we put ourselves in a place to prevent the crisis, because so much of anything connected to artificial intelligence has to start with us as an individual, accepting certain realities. And no machine could do that for us. We have to be the ones to do that, and then decide, what are we going to do with the artificial intelligence to make the human life, the human experience better?
Well, it calls us back to character. Like, who are we in this process? Crisis doesn't always bring out the best in people, but what it does is it reveals who we are during a crisis. And so I think that's where the fear factor, if we can just step away from fear and go towards people, caring, and curiosity, I think we'll have a better sense of how do we steer and navigate ourselves through these challenging times.
Yes. Well, it seems very clear, but sometimes hard to act on.
Correct.
Well, wonderful stuff. Connect directly with Peter at proutyproject.com. Today's case file is powered by Closet Therapy. Closet Therapy is a modern approach to personal styling. Created by Zoe Stern, the focus is simple: helping you feel aligned, confident, and comfortable in your clothes. Services range from closet audits to personal shopping. The magic happens in a private digital platform that organizes your wardrobe and provides curated outfit guidance. Your virtual closet right at your fingertips. Practical, personal, designed for real life. Explore options at myclosettherapy.com. Rate, review, and subscribe to The Crisis Files on your platform of choice. Follow us on YouTube and Instagram at The Crisis Files. Visit thecrisisfiles.com for all 4 seasons of the show. I'm Roshini Rajkumar. Join me next time on The Crisis Files.